bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Last time I was here was with Buddy, my golden retriever, who joined me for the first 2,000 kilometre of my 13,000 kilometre triathlon from England to Everest. But this time we got back and we've just got a rescue dog, but Teddy, who's inspired our next adventure, our next charity expedition in aid of rescue dogs. So, yeah.
I'm going to slow you down a tiny bit there.
Absolutely, that's fine.
You said fairly quickly 13,000 kilometres.
Yeah.
So, tell me about the stages of that.
So, yeah, so it was 6 months tomorrow, 6 months ago to the day, was on summit of Everest and completed the longest climb of Mount Everest in history. So it was 13,157 kilometres, which started with a swim across the English Channel and then a 12,000 kilometre bike ride across 18 countries to sea level in India, and then a 1,300 kilometre run and hike and climb from sea level to the top of Mount Everest. So it was the first triathlon to the top of the world and also the longest climb of Everest in history, which was for a great veterans charity called SABSIM, which makes mental health courses using wildlife and nature. And I studied zoology, massive animal lover myself, and now I've been back 6 months and we've just come across and rescued Teddy. It inspired our next little venture.
I mean, the trip you undertook, the 13,000 kilometres, medical experts said it was impossible.
Well, a lot of people said to me, a lot of experts said they're not sure if it's possible. You know, the question was that, you know, after nearly an 8,000-mile triathlon, would the human body then be capable of then climbing Everest? I lost 18 kilos, nearly died many times. The hardest day was on day one, actually, 18 and a half hours across the channel. That was just day one of 237. But we made it in the end. It was for a great cause, and we kind of defied possible to show the most important message of my entire kind of expedition, that the only person that knows what's possible is looking in the mirror.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
It's 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 15th of November, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt.
In a world exclusive on The Late Show Live, US President Donald Trump told GB News' Bev Turner, crucially, that he will sue the BBC despite the apology from the corporation.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it, we'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
And we'll be getting a reaction from that exclusive GB News interview that took place in the White House throughout the morning.
Well, elsewhere, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is set to announce what she calls the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times next week. But will the Danish immigration model go far enough? President Trump had a warning about immigration in Europe.
Immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
And Chancellor Rachel Reeves has decided not to put up income tax rates in the budget, according to the latest reports. And with that budget now less than 2 weeks away, what measures will Reeves settle on? We'll get all the latest from that.
Biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. And your weekend starts here.
Well, I'm so interested in this new plan from Shabana Mahmood to introduce something like the Danish immigration system. It sounds great in principle. It's really worked in Denmark. Illegal immigration is down 90%. But could the UK pull off the same kind of thing? I just don't think there is an appetite among Labour politicians to sound really, really tough about immigration. And that's what it takes.
Yeah, we've seen criticism and also some commentary, really, from Alf Mehmet from Migration Watch, saying that perhaps, actually, the only party with MPs willing to do this, to own it truly, might be Reform. We saw the Conservatives now moving in that direction, having presided over a lot of these surges in asylum claims that Shabana Mahmood is so concerned about. I think Shabana Mahmood, she's saying all the right things if you want to reduce immigration, but will her ministers and other sort of colleagues get behind her on that?
And also, I think there's quite a risk for Labour. Obviously, they need to get back those votes that have bled away to the Reform Party, but that a by-election in Caerphilly the other day showed that also, actually, there are votes bleeding away to the left from Labour. So how does Labour find that midpoint? How does it find that balance? I think it's going to be really, really tough for Keir Starmer, particularly on this crucial issue.
Yeah, lots of issues for Labour at the moment. Also on the show today, we'll be speaking to 2 SAS veterans in the studio after they are speaking out on concerns about prosecutions for soldiers who fought in Northern Ireland and what it might mean for the future of UK Special Forces.
Well, and don't forget, we really want to hear from you on that, on immigration, on Rachel Reeves, the budget, anything you want to write about. Send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay.
Right, before we get started with Saturday Morning Live, let's speak to Bethany Elsey, who has all your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. It's 3 minutes past 10. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB Newsroom. The US president has told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC for defamation. Donald Trump says he'll sue the broadcaster for between $1 and $5 billion after it apologised but refused to compensate him over airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. It spliced together parts of his speech on the day of the Capitol Hill riot, making it seem like he made a direct call for violence. They called it an error of judgment. But in an exclusive interview with The Late Show, Donald Trump branded the BBC corrupt.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
In a major shake-up, people granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. The Home Secretary is set to announce reforms modelled on the Danish system next week, aiming to make the UK less attractive for illegal immigrants and make it easier to deport them. Currently, those granted refugee status have it for 5 years and can then apply for indefinite leave to remain. Under the new rules, they'll be returned as soon as their home country is considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Rachel Reeves is expected to extend the freeze on income tax thresholds until the end of the decade. That move could push more than 10 million people into higher rate tax bands and bring all state pensioners into paying income tax by 2027. Reeves is also preparing a new levy on middle-class homeowners, introducing a £600 million surcharge on high-value properties. London and the South East will be hardest hit. And a major incident has been declared in South Wales, and thousands in Ireland are without power due to Storm Claudia. Fire and rescue services in Monmouth say severe and widespread flooding poses a significant risk to life there. They've been working through the night to evacuate people at risk and are urging others to avoid the area if possible. Authorities in Ireland say a risk of flooding will remain even after weather alerts have lifted this afternoon, as water levels could still rise and clogged drains could be a complicating factor. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley. In a world-exclusive GB News interview, Bev Turner sat down with US President Donald Trump in the White House.
Now, they spoke about the ongoing row with the BBC following the emergence of not one, but two doctored clips, with the president saying that he will sue the corporation.
You don't have to admit their guilt. It's on tape, you know. I mean, there's nothing to admit. No, I think very shortly we have a statutory period. We've notified them by writing, and I think you have to wait a week. And so that time's coming up, and after that time comes up, we'll sue them. My lawyers say for $1 billion or more, and we'll see how it all works out. But I can't imagine they could do very well in that lawsuit. What they've done is incredible. But I will say, I think I have an obligation to bring a major lawsuit against the BBC, because what they did is impossible to believe. Now, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did.
And the president also had a warning about levels of immigration throughout Europe.
Immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
Well, joining us now for reaction to that is Republican commentator Noralie Knotson. Noralie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Corrupt news, very strong language coming from the President of the United States overnight, also saying that he could sue for up to $5 billion.
I would take Donald Trump very seriously. As we know, with CBS, he actually sued them from $10 billion, took the lawsuit up to $20 billion. That ultimately settled for $16 million, and that was with the doctoring of Kamala Harris's interview on 60 Minutes just a couple of days before elections. He will definitely sue the BBC, and I believe corrupt is maybe even too soft. I think fraudulent is probably a more applicable term when it comes to way they deliberately doctored and spliced the language to make him look like he incited violence, and as a result of his words, that the people were marching to the Capitol.
I mean, there's no doubt that the BBC was wrong. It's come out and apologised. But do you genuinely think there's a chance that Donald Trump could win this lawsuit? He would have to prove, wouldn't he, that it actually materially altered the course of anything. And as this documentary wasn't actually broadcast in the States, that might be quite a tricky thing to prove. He would also have to prove, wouldn't he, that his reputation was unblemished in the first place, which might be hard too.
There is a very high threshold, as you point out. And what's interesting is I was speaking to an American friend of mine who told me on the basis of Trump inciting violence, that very fight that everybody talked about, she did not vote.
And Noralie, this is obviously a very tricky moment for the Prime Minister here. Sir Keir Starmer, one of his successes has been his relationship with Donald Trump. Trump telling Bev Turner last night that Sir Keir Starmer, isn't happy about this and is going to be speaking with him over the weekend. How do you think the Prime Minister can navigate this situation, considering how he needs to obviously defend the broadcaster in Britain, but also maintain his relationship with the White House?
Well, I think it's very important that the issue is addressed, that it was misleading, it was deliberate, because this could happen to the UK, to elections here. And President Trump mentioned in that interview, maybe they're doing it to Nigel Farage, given that Reform is in the lead right now. So it's very important for the people of the United Kingdom to be able to have faith in their broadcasters, not to try to rewrite the words in their leaders' mouths.
Do you think that Keir Starmer made a mistake? Last week, he said, his spokesperson said to a collection of journalists in a lobby briefing that he, the Prime Minister, did not believe that the BBC was institutionally biased. Now, Donald Trump very clearly does think the BBC is institutionally biased. That Michael Prescott report reveals all sorts of allegations of bias within the BBC. Michael Prescott himself had come to the conclusion that the corporation is institutionally biased. Do you think Keir Starmer made a mistake coming out and making that statement when he didn't really quite have all the facts?
I would agree with you. I think he spoke too soon, and I think it was wrong that we do see there is bias and pervasive bias. Even famous journalists like Andrew Marr, after leaving the BBC, himself said that BBC had bias. We all see it. We can judge for ourselves, regardless of what Keir Starmer might say about the BBC.
And we've seen, obviously, two senior members quit the organisation but defend it at the same time, saying that they're proud of the journalism going on inside broadcasting houses. They were walking in amid their resignations. But Norrie, let's talk about the immigration angle that Donald Trump raised last night, because one of the successes of his presidency has been preventing the flow over the southern border, and the very high number of deportation flights, also something that Labour talks about, how they've surged the number of deportation flights in Britain. But we still have this small boats crossings crisis. With those comments from the president last night, do you think that's going to put additional pressure on British ministers to really tackle this problem once and for all?
I think absolutely. It highlights a grave concern for this country to know who is coming in and that they are people that you want, that can contribute to this country, that respect this country, and that are coming in legally. His suggestion to use military on the borders. We've got natural water as a border, but as we know, the boats don't, help these illegals come across. But I think it's a very important issue that will be a hot topic for ministers, but will determine elections going forward here in this country.
Well, thank you very much, Nora Lee Notson. It'll be fascinating to see if Starmer listens to President Trump about this. It sounds like he might be. And on that subject, we're joined now by former Labour Party chair, Baroness Hayter. I'm going to start, if you don't mind, on this immigration issue. Shabana Mahmood trying to copy what the Danish are doing. Now, it works very well in Denmark, doesn't it? Illegal migration is down by 90% since Denmark brought in some much, much harsher rules in 2015. Do you think the Labour Party could seriously do something similar here? Would it work?
I hope so. It is important we do something, because the system we have at the moment, we've got a lot of people in limbo who shouldn't have been here, but we've taken so much time to deal with their asylum claims. They should have been dealt with, and those who don't get it should have been out of the country by now. We've got a lot of money being spent on this, so we do have to do something. What I'm hoping is that we can work on a much more cross-party basis on this, which unfortunately none of us have done in the past over immigration. I hope that we can move forward now and really take action of the sort that Denmark's done. We're not the same country.
Baroness Hayter, obviously, you're speaking about cross-party action. There's a bit of a problem in terms of internal party action in Labour. You've seen one Labour MP saying that a member of the party's socialist campaign, that copying the Danish strategy would be going down a dangerous path. How can you hope for cross-party alignment on this when Labour itself is already split on this issue?
We've got one or two people split on it, but I mean, every party has one or two like that. I really wouldn't worry about that. What matters is what the Cabinet and what the government is going to do and what the ministers are going to do.
Well, they tried that with welfare, and there were more than just one or two splits on the welfare bills, wasn't there, as well? And that led to a really, what many are saying is quite a cowardly step down. Immigration is another one of those classic issues where left-wing MPs will resist very strongly a more strenuous and rigid approach.
They may do, but what's important is that we do what's right. I mean, early on you were talking, earlier in the programme, I think, about whether, one has to tack to the left or tack to the right, or you may be losing votes this way or that way. That isn't what should drive us. We should do what's right for this country and have the leadership to do that. This is something that needs addressing. I think the Home Secretary is going to address it. And that's what we must do.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Baroness Hayter. We should be doing what's right for the country and there should be some sort of vision, direction in the leadership. Do you think Keir Starmer has that vision and direction in the leadership? Because, as Charlie says, he's backed down on some pretty crucial decisions which he made. He was going to back down. He was going to change the way the broken welfare system works. He was going to cut that winter fuel payment. He changed his mind because backbenchers forced him to. He doesn't really seem to have a direction of travel. And I think you can actually see that in what's going on with the BBC now. Where's he going to come down on this? He seems to want to keep Donald Trump on side, but want to mollify the BBC as well. Could he get caught in the crossfires here because he doesn't seem to have that direction of leadership?
That's your view, and I don't think that's is as wildly held as perhaps you think. What is absolutely clear about the Prime Minister is that he wants a society which is fairer, which gives people opportunities, that everyone, whatever their background, can actually get an education, can get a house, can get the health service and everything to enable them to thrive. That isn't easy. It's very easy being a TV studio. I can do it now and pontificate about what should happen. Actually, having the levers and making it work and bringing that together is tough, and every government finds that. Okay. I am not worried. I know you've talked about the BBC. One of the things I do think, well, I believe in a free press. You've just given, if I may say so, quite an opinionated introduction to this. That's fine. That's a free press. And what we mustn't do is so clamp down, as I fear may be happening now over the BBC, over a horrendous mistake. I'm not defending that, and I've got other problems about it. But let's not clamp down to the extent that we lose what is really precious, whether it's GBNews or the BBC, that we actually have a free press that can put across things.
OK, well, in reacting to our interview with Donald Trump on his intention to sue the BBC, we've heard from the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, saying that this is Starmer's moment to stand up for Britain, for every TV licence fee payer and for a free press that can hold the powerful to account. And he's urged Trump to drop what he's described as his ludicrous lawsuit and to stop interfering in our country. Do you associate yourself with Sir Ed Davey's remarks?
Well, with a bit of them, there is a bit where I am slightly surprised, having watched. I couldn't do the whole of the interview. I hadn't realised how long it was. Congratulations to your colleague for that. But when he started talking about the streets of London and how dangerous they are, I do actually think with I think about 400 people murdered in New York every year, and I think nearly 2,000 rapes in New York, that it would be a good idea perhaps if an American leader could look at their own country and leave us to run our country. So I have some sympathy with what Ed Davey says about that. But the issue of the BBC should be treated by our Prime Minister and by everyone else as an issue for us and the BBC. And I think that holding the BBC to account and improving on absolutely every programme they put out is important. And I do think that's a matter more for the Brits to deal with, I'm afraid, than the Americans.
Just very quickly, Baroness Hayter, obviously this has been a very difficult week for Keir Starmer. All sorts of talks of briefings. Wes Streeting at one point looked as though he was on the move as about to become the new Prime Minister. That seems to have died away now. You say that the Prime Minister's job is hard. It certainly is. But he's been in the post for a year and a half. Can you tell us about one thing that he has achieved that has made life better for British people? So, essentially, why should he stay in the job?
Whether you look at the rise of the minimum wage, or what they're doing about creating jobs in energy and all sorts of things. If we're looking at what's happening about the start on housing, there are enormous numbers of issues. We've been doing the NHS is a big, we've got waiting lists down considerably, and we've got the work being done on increasing police force, because one of the things that people really need is safe streets, and we've increased the number of police out there. So all that is happening. Of course, there's always more to do, but we are doing the things we're putting right, and we're stabilising from what we took over. And I have great confidence that we will go forward in that way.
All right, thank you, Baroness Hayter, for your time this morning. Well, in reaction to the commentary with regards to the BBC, we've got a letter which was sent to the President on Thursday. The BBC said, well, the corporation sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited. We strongly disagree that there is a basis for a defamation claim. Well, Olivia, on that last point that we just spoke about briefly, Baroness Hayter talking about how Trump is talking about how it's dangerous in London. I think Baroness was suggesting that maybe that's a bit over-egged. People do feel unsafe increasingly in Britain, I think. Perhaps the crime rate is falling in some areas, but with the border situation as it is, with the small boats crossings, people don't know who's in the country, who is being put into their local communities.
And
how can people feel
particularly
safe?
terrifying when we hear all these stories about prisoners being accidentally released from prison. 262 last year. Pretty extraordinary. I think people do feel less safe. But we'll be bringing you clips of that Late Show Live exclusive throughout the morning. But stay tuned to GB News at midday, where Dawn Neeson will be bringing you the whole interview in full. That's 40 minutes, so do stay on after this show.
Right, still to come, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is set to announce what she calls the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times. But will the Danish immigration model go far enough?
But next, it's day 2 of the 5-day walkout of resident doctors in England. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the strike is inflicting pain and misery on patients. Has it impacted you? We'll be discussing that and much more in our paper review. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Secretary is urging medical professionals to prescribe having a job as a form of treatment for anxiety and depression, where Streeting wants employment to be seen as being just as vital to health as diet and exercise. His comments come as the latest figures reveal there are more than 2.8 million people of working age who are economically inactive in the UK because of long-term sickness. Joining me now is a psychotherapist and broadcaster, Lucy Beresford. Lucy, good to see you. What do you make of this story? Prescribing going to work, basically?
In effect, that's what it's doing. And on the whole, I'm fully behind it, because work is a very powerful mood lifter. It works on 3 levels, really. It gives you a sense of structure. It gives you somewhere that you have to go and to be there at certain times, maybe fulfill certain deadlines. It also gives you a sense of purpose. And we know from a lot of studies that when you have mental illness, and particularly when you have depression or anxiety, that sense of helplessness, worthlessness can be very debilitating, and it can send you on a downward spiral, make it very hard for you to get well. And yet if you have work, if you have a sense of purpose, if you have a mission, if you like, if you have goals, if you get improvements in your work and you get promoted, all of those things can be very beneficial. And the third thing, of course, is that in the workplace, we form human connections. We are very relational creatures, human beings. We come into this world physically joined to another person, and that is our template. We are longing for connection.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
now to look through the top stories of today. We're delighted to be joined by broadcaster Duncan Barks and political commentator Dominic Moffat.
Good morning to both. How are you doing?
Very well.
Super. Right, well, let's get you reacting to a clip. Who needs the papers? We've got a GB News exclusive because Donald Trump sat down with Bev Turner last night and he said that Europe needs MAGA.
But the expression really says it all. Make America great again. You should have the same expression in your country. Make the UK great again. You know, you have so many terms. You have England, you have Britain, you have the UK, you have... But whatever you want to use, you want to make it great again.
But we're not alone in Europe, that leaders of European countries, and particularly the UK, are incredibly squeamish about the suggestion that their people are more important than people coming from other countries. Why?
Well, you don't have that in okay. Look, in the case of Hungary, you have a man named Viktor Orban, who the other leaders hate, but who does a fabulous job. You know how many people he's allowed into his country?
Go on.
0. And he's got no problems. He has taken some Ukrainians, you know, from the war, but basically 0. You know.
Right, Duncan and Dominic, he's got a point, hasn't he? I'm going to start with you, actually, because talking about Hungary there is an interesting comparison. It is a relatively safe country in Europe, has taken on a lot of the sort of Trumpian immigration policies more broadly. Do you think we're going to see more sort of Trump-style politics in Europe? We're going to have Sir Keir Starmer copying his plans?
Well, I think with Viktor Orban, we have already seen Trump-style policies in Europe, but I'm not entirely sure the UK and Britain are keen to emulate Viktor Orban.
35,000 crossing on a small boat.
Well, Viktor Orban is a man who has been kind of thrown out of European institutions for the way he runs his country, for the anti-democratic processes, for the way that they kind of bullied the judiciary into political decisions. That's not a good thing. That is something we should avoid.
The judiciary bullies us and says we can't deport.
The judiciary follows the law. I think you can change the law. That's what politicians are there to do. If you want to change the law, change it. Don't bully judges into... Don't publish
there is an appetite in the UK. Week after week, surveys show that immigration is now the most popular, the most important issue facing British voters. So there is a bit of an appetite, isn't there, for Keir Starmer to copy what Viktor Orban or Donald Trump is doing?
Well, there's absolutely an appetite for, you know, as you say, kind of stopping the boats, for controlling immigration, but that's why this government has done that. That's why there's 50% more decision-making. There's 50% more decision-making, 11% more people are being deported, like monthly or whatever it is, than they were for the election, and that's why there's the New France deal. Look, Britain is clearly great. It doesn't need to be made great again because people want to come here.
Duncan, is this a case where we're going through sort of a Trumpian revolution, especially in North America, but also increasingly in Europe? And in Britain, we sort of have the wrong politicians for that time.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Listen, the biggest mistake that's been made in the last 2 years was the deterrent that was put in place but never got an opportunity to run by the Conservatives, which was the Rwanda deterrent, the policy, which is basically if you come to this country illegally, you get processed in somewhere like Rwanda. That is a pretty unpalatable outcome, and I believe if that had actually come into effect, the numbers that we're still hearing about today on GB News in terms of boat crossings would have dropped. We seem to have this problem in Britain where, and it's not just under this government, we saw it under the Conservatives as well, this almost like this nervousness of trying to put this country first and saying, look, we have a right to control our borders, and if that means doing something that's for some people might consider a bit unpalatable, so be it. It's interesting watching the Trump interview there with Bev. I mean, you know, what wasn't mentioned is Meloni in Italy, who's doing remarkable work, you know, in stopping immigration. And I do think it is an issue for voters. As you mentioned, Olivia, you have it as one of the top issues in the polls that come out. You know, and consequently people want to see action. And what we have at the moment is a government who are threatened by Reform UK because they're doing really well in the polls, trying to be tough on the boat crossings. And every week we seem to have a different policy being outlined. At the moment, it's like, let's copy Denmark. You know, a couple of weeks ago, it was like this one in, one out thing that appears not to be working. So they're desperate to find a solution, but they're nervous. And Keir Starmer's right to be nervous about it because some of his backbench Labour MPs don't want him to be too tough.
Well, absolutely. And I think it's quite interesting. You talk about Rwanda there. Part of Denmark's strategy is actually deporting migrants to Rwanda, of all places. So Shabana Mahmood saying she's going to copy Denmark. Might she end up actually introducing that Rwanda policy?
I can't imagine a situation in which the Labour government will introduce a return to the failed Rwanda scheme. £700 million to deport 4 people.
Why was it failed? Why it didn't?
Because it deported 4 people for £700 million.
4 volunteers, we should say, as well.
4 volunteers.
But Dominic, do you think that a deportation scheme, if it's not Rwanda, that an alternative plan could be
People
put
come
across?
to the UK statistically because they think the UK follows the rule of law, that they think this is a place that
They think it's light touch, let's be frank.
That's not what the surveys find. That's not what the surveys find. When they study the people that come here, they find that it's because they trust the rule of law here. These are people who are leaving from
the
countries...
rule of law to approve their asylum claims, whereas in Denmark, for example, one of the, I think, pretty interesting proposals that Shabana Mahmood is making, they are far more strenuous. You don't have family unity programmes in the same way that we do have here, but we're going to see dozens.
Well, they're talking about changing those. I think you make an incredibly important point, which is that it is one of the top issues for voters, but it's a top issue for Reform and Conservative voters. Actually, it's not one of the most important issues for Labour voters, which is obviously where the government gets its support from.
Into Reform voters.
Well, there's certainly a problem with that at the moment for the government, and there is massive disquiet in the government benches with proposals that will be seen as anti-progressive, will not be seen as pro-people coming to this country.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? Why is it anti-progressive to want to protect your borders?
It's not about that. I think you can... It's not reasonable to kind of bring... It's not legal to bring people for people to come to this country and to then treat them in the way that deporting them to Rwanda, a non-safe country, it's not reasonable to sit them in a kind of a limbo stasis to prevent family reunion. Okay. Absolutely, I think it would be fair to say to people who come here as asylum seekers to claim asylum, refugee status, that if it is safe to return, you absolutely should return. Dominic, that is the point.
On Thursday in Oxford, I saw an Iranian asylum seeker who crossed the country on a small boat being sentenced for raping a 15-year-old girl. Now, her mother, that teenager, has written letters to the Home Office demanding answers. Why was this man, who had 11 convictions in Germany for violence, allowed to come to Britain, be convicted again in this country of theft, not be jailed? He was given a community order to then go on and attack her daughter. That man should never have been in this country. Is it reasonable to say that our current process is it acceptable? Surely something has to change, quite seriously. And if the progressive wing of the Labour Party don't want to get on board with it, clearly they are allowing these scenarios to take place. They are allowing a system that sees these small boat crossings come into Britain and carry out these heinous acts.
Clearly that is a horrific crime, and one in which that you want that person to not be allowed into the UK at any point, and that person needs to be detained. And I think part of the problem here is that if you deport that person, they probably won't continue to be detained, they won't be in prison.
They won't be
abroad.
in Britain.
No, but...
They won't be in Britain.
But is it important to punish that person and to ensure they are incarcerated for the crime they've committed? I think it is, so it's important they're incarcerated in the UK.
Well, thank you, Duncan and Dominic. Much more of that in the next hour. But still to come, will Shabana Mahmood's changes to asylum policy really solve Britain's problem with illegal migration?
Right, before we get on with that, let's go speak to Bethany Arcee, because she's got all your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. President Donald Trump has told GB News he feels obligated to sue the broadcaster for at least $1 billion. That's despite the BBC apologising for airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. People granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily under new government plans. They'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. And South Wales Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe flooding and thousands in Ireland are without power. Those are the headlines for now. More for you at 11 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Yes, with just a week and a half to go until that long-awaited budget, Rachel Reeves seems to be backing down. She won't be increasing income taxes, but what will she be doing instead? Find out more with us very soon.
And there are more mooted Labour ministerial plans, because Shabana Mahmood is said to be looking at Denmark's immigration system to overhaul our struggling asylum process. Could Copenhagen be the way for our borders system? Catch all of that on Saturday Morning Live just after the break.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through today, the rain from Storm Claudia will clear away and slowly but surely it will turn that much drier. Some sunny spells across Scotland to start the day, potentially a bit of frost out there this morning, and it will be a dry and bright day here. Further south though, particularly across parts of the Midlands, parts of Lincolnshire, will continue to see some quite persistent rain as well as some brisk easterly winds. Now the rain should ease up as the day goes on, but it's going to stay pretty cloudy and damp for the bulk of central areas of the UK. Still fairly mild in the south, 12 or 13 degrees, feeling cooler once again across the far north of Scotland in particular. Through this evening, those clearer skies will become a little bit more widespread into central areas of Scotland. Once again, it will turn colder as the sun goes down. There's a risk of frost overnight tonight as well. And those clearer skies as the night goes on will push into parts of Northern Ireland as well as more southern and central and southern areas of Scotland, northern England as well. Still pretty cloudy and damp across central areas of Wales as well as England through this evening. The far south staying that much drier, but there is a risk of the odd shower through this afternoon as well as through this evening across the far southeast in particular. Some of these could be a little heavier. Now, as I said, those clearer skies will become more widespread, so it will turn much clearer across Northern Ireland, parts of northern England, and the rain should start to ease as well. And so for more northern areas, we're expecting a frost a little more widely on Sunday morning. Further south, still fairly mild with lots of cloud around, though it will be a little bit colder tomorrow morning than this morning out there. Through Sunday, there'll be more in the way of drier and brighter weather moving into parts of central England, North Wales as well, which will make a difference after the recent heavy rainfall. But across the far north of Scotland, we've got a brisk northerly wind moving in that will bring a risk of snow showers and a very chilly feel. And that chilly feel is set to last through much of next week. Bye-bye.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. And the Home Secretary has said that the UK must restore order and control ahead of announcing a major shake-up of the asylum system on Monday.
Yes, Shabana Mahmood is set to unveil plans she described as the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times, under changes believed to be modelled on the Danish system.
Well, in that world-exclusive interview with President Trump, GB News' Bev Turner asked him about the impact of immigration on Europe.
I'm so saddened to see what happened in Europe with the immigration. I think above all else the immigration, but the bad taxing policies. Your immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum. And we're getting them out, and we've got a lot of them out. If you look at some of our cities that we've sent the military in to correct, Washington, D.C. was very unsafe, and now it's the safest place in the country. It took me 2 months to make it good, less actually, but 2 months to make it really good now. Everyone's having dinners there. We have these beautiful, nice military guys all over the place. And they look good. To me they look good because it means safety. But we took out 1,700 career criminals and criminals from other countries that came in like they come into your country. And Europe has to do something about it.
Right, well, with Trump's comments in mind, is the Danish model the best way to tackle illegal immigration in Britain? Well, with us now is the Research Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, thanks very much for joining us this morning. It's interesting, isn't it? Shabana Mahmood sending her officials to Copenhagen recently to understand their processes. Explain to our audience, what do the Danish do differently to us?
So there's several components of what Denmark have been doing in recent years that we've gone nowhere near. I think the most important and most significant is actually, in my view, the fact that they put very strict time limits on an individual holding refugee status before they have to reapply. In the UK, what we actually do effectively is once an individual's given that status, we put them on a conveyor belt towards effectively indefinitely to remain and staying in the country for the foreseeable future. Another thing they have been doing is looking to, and they have actually to some extent been very successful in this, reduce the number of people coming over as family members of those that have claimed refugee status. They've extended the time period that an individual has to wait before they can bring over a family member to 2 years, whereas at the moment, although the Labour government have temporarily paused all family reunions, we effectively allow it from the get-go. And there is indications that actually these measures, as well as just the general narrative that Denmark have adopted, which has been a lot more strident than we've had in recent years, has actually dramatically reduced the number of people claiming asylum and coming into the system. I don't know if it's quite been successful enough in actually removing individuals whose perhaps asylum status has changed, their claim to refugee status perhaps isn't as watertight as it once was, and there's some evidence that actually the numbers being removed are not quite as high as probably the Danish government would like them to be.
Well, I'd also like to bring in human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan, who's joining us as well. Shoaib, what do you make of what Rob is saying there? Obviously, part of the way that the Danish strategy works is making Denmark a very hostile environment for migrants. They seize the jewellery of people coming into Denmark to fund their stay in Denmark. Do you think that's the right thing to be doing? Should we be doing that over here?
No, I mean, of course not. The thing is, I mean, if your only goal is to reduce the numbers, then fine. I mean, why don't we just withdraw from the Refugee Convention and say, fine, you know, if you're dying in a war, you die there. What's it got to do with us? So if that's what you want to do, then of course, I mean, like Rob was just saying, oh, we reduce the number of family members. But how is that a good thing? You know, someone's children, you know, I mean, obviously, if they've been granted refugee status or asylum, that means we've accepted or Denmark have accepted their life is in danger. And that's why they will stay in the country. And so we accept that. We're willing to give them refuge or save their life. But then you can't have your wife or your children join you. I just don't understand, how is that humane? How is that fair? Yes, it's bringing the numbers down, but is that just the only goal we have? If we have, then yeah, we might as well send those back as well. We don't care if you die back home. So I just don't see what we're saying. I mean, if what we're saying is that the Danish system, people are integrating better, people are working, people are contributing, those asylum seekers are paying more tax.
This is one of the biggest myths, that the doctors, their engineers, we're seeing it parroted by the Green Party. It's absolute bunkum. Some refugee routes, you actually see only 1 in 10 individuals being economically active. So, of course, there's a huge cost for the taxpayer there that's hidden within the welfare bill. We've got about 200,000 individuals with refugee status claiming universal credit. So there's long-term costs there. So they're not actually coming in large part to contribute. I think that's a bit of a false line that's been doing the rounds recently. With regards to the Refugee Convention, we have a real problem in Britain in that we seem to gold plate a lot of the strictures of these conventions. We don't just take sort of what the letter of the law is, we actually then go above and beyond it. So the Refugee Convention says that sort of, yes, you do have to make some efforts to integrate them, but what we've sort of interpreted that as being is putting them on a pathway effectively to indefinitely to remain, and then from that citizenship as well, which is way beyond actually what we need to do. And the real gist of what the Refugee Convention is trying to get at is that it is a temporary process, that individuals aren't coming to a country to stay indefinitely. And actually a really important part of a properly functioning global refugee system is that individuals return to their country once it's deemed safe. You know, you've seen conversations in Germany. They're looking to return many Syrians that are
Rob,
now
thank you.
Their situations have changed.
Shoaib Khan, on this issue of parallel societies, because the Danish model also sees if there is a significant overrepresentation of foreign nationals in an area, the state intervenes to stop that happening. Do you welcome that move coming to Britain as well? Would it prevent more sort of sectarian differences between different organisations and groups?
No, I mean, I think we need to solve the problem. I mean, basically, the problems rather than solve them. So what they're doing is, by not allowing the families in, by not allowing them to integrate, by keeping them on a temporary visa for years, they don't feel as if that's their home. They're not going to integrate. They're not going to want to contribute. Why would you contribute to something that you're not going to stay in for long? And that's the thing. If it's just a hotel, we don't look after it as well as we look after our homes. And that's the thing. So the point is, first we create these ghettos and then we say we have to get rid of them. So why not from the day one, if they know this is our home now, we have to make it our home, we have to look after it, we have to contribute, we'll make an effort to learn the language, we'll make an effort to integrate, then ghettos won't be created. And that's why ghettos are created. Because initially, if people know immediately, we could get kicked out. My family won't be able to live here with me.
All right. You're breaking up here.
Elderly parents aren't.
You're breaking up here, I'm afraid, Sharif. So we're going to have to leave it there. Sorry, I can see Rob itching to respond as well, but we will have to leave it there. Thank you very much to Rob Bates and Sharif Khan.
Right, well, still to come on Saturday Morning Live, Rachel Reeves has decided not to put up income tax rates in the budget, according to the latest reports. With the budget now less than 2 weeks away, what measures will the Chancellor settle on? We'll get all the latest on that.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Storm Claudia is not just affecting the UK, it will continue to bring heavy rain to parts of Portugal and western Spain. But meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, it's looking dry and sunny throughout the weekend. Highs around 17 to 19 degrees. Also fairly dry across parts of Italy as well. But it's further west into Portugal where the wet weather will continue into this weekend. And that wet weather is set to spread further east into the Mediterranean, bringing rain here later next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Lives. And Rachel Reeves has decided not to put up income tax rates in the budget, according to reports.
This comes after GB News understands that better than expected economic figures means the Chancellor's 2p hike in rates will now not take place.
Well, with us now is business commentator Michael Wilson. Michael, obviously this would have been a hugely controversial thing to do. Rachel Reeves has backtracked on this. That might save her bacon. But what taxes is she going to have to put up instead? And will it actually be any better for the British voter?
Well, I think as far as politics is concerned, and I'm not a political expert, I have to say, I think it's been a disastrous week. A U-turn like this is something which it started as if the manifesto was going to be broken. The promises in the manifesto about not increasing income tax, but she still needs to raise £20 billion. It looks like at the moment anyway, if you believe the OBR's figures. So the sorts of things that she will almost certainly do, there'll be I think a 2-year freeze on tax thresholds. That's a stealth tax. So by the time, and that includes lower rate taxpayers as well. It also includes pensioners. So it means that, but the bottom line is that 10.1 million people by 2030 will be paying the higher rate of tax. There will also be, I guess, a raid on pension contributions. There may be tax on electric cars because the Treasury gets an enormous amount of tax from people who drive normal cars, petrol and diesel cars, and that hole has got to be filled up. So that suggests to me, and I think some of the noises coming out at the moment have also suggested, so there will be a tax on electric cars, and there will also presumably be a tax on so-called mansions. Now I say so-called because who lives in a mansion nowadays? I mean, when I was little, mansions were huge places. Now, a mansion is a normal-sized house in London, for example, and many cities around the UK. So there will still be some fairly nasty event. We will still be highly taxed. It's just that it looks like at the moment they've avoided raising income tax and therefore breaking one of their manifesto pledges.
Michael, a lot of the commentary so far ahead of this budget seems to suggest that they're hoping to fill that £20 billion gap with more tax, but there's not a lot of discussion about potential growth-boosting measures. We've heard Donald Trump speaking to GB News overnight about drilling in the North Sea. Is there any room, you think, about radical interventions that could see lower energy prices or an improvement to our energy supply?
I think you have unfortunately put your finger precisely where it ought to be. This needs to be a budget about productivity. It needs to be pro-business because that's where tax income actually comes from at the end of the day. And so far, all we've heard is a lot of noise and a lot of it contradictory. I just want to add to your point, if I may, the most important statistic I think so far this month, never mind the budget, although that should be an event on the 26th of November, is the fact that a figure has been reached this week, 4 million people claiming benefits, and they don't need to be looking for work. Now, I think that is disastrous for the country. I think that stops people's ambitions. It stops why should you go to work if you can just if you don't have to go to work and claim benefits? Half the households in the country are on benefits of one kind or another. Now, that may be something quite legitimate like child benefits, but I suspect there are a lot of people who hide behind their curtains first thing in the morning, whilst other people go to work and probably their income doesn't exceed that hugely.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, Michael, because we're rapidly approaching the end of the hour. But thank you very much. And we've got lots more to come on Saturday Morning Live today, including more of that top interview with President Trump. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After all the heavy rain yesterday, Storm Claudia will weaken, but leaving behind plenty of cloud and also some fog across the south. But in Scotland, plenty of sunny spells to come. Now here's that area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay, and here's the frontal system it's leaving behind. This will bring plenty of rain and drizzle through the course of the day, and to the south of this, plenty of low clouds. Some foggy conditions may remain across this south, but where we do see the fog ease away, plenty of cloudy skies will remain. Further north, though, across Scotland, a much brighter day. Plenty of sunny spells here and quite blustery across much of the country, but even these winds will ease away by the afternoon. Plenty of milder air still remains across the south, highs of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius here. Now into the evening, still plenty of cloud will remain, and it will still produce some rain and drizzle, particularly across the Welsh Hills, across parts of the Pennines. Also parts of Northern Ireland could continue to see some spells of rain and drizzle. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland, but that does mean as soon as the sun goes down, it will feel chilly once again, and it's likely we'll see quite a widespread frost across Scotland through the course of the night. Skies will eventually start to clear across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England, so it's starting to turn much chillier here, but to the south of this, still plenty of cloud remains, still producing some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mainly around hilly areas. But with the clouds, that does mean temperatures will hold up across the south, but many areas across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England may just about drop below freezing, with quite a widespread frost across Scotland. Now for Sunday, the second half of the weekend, it will be brightening up for many of us. The remnants of cloud will eventually push south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but elsewhere brightening up nicely. Plenty of sunny spells, but some quite blustery winds, particularly around North Sea coasts. There might be some showers around these areas too. For all temperatures, around about average for the time of year, highs reaching 11 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's 11 a.m. on Saturday, the 15th of November, live across the United Kingdom. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is correct.
In a world exclusive on The Late Show Live, US President Donald Trump told GBNews' Bev Turner that he will sue the BBC, despite the apology from the corporation.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
And we'll be getting a reaction from that exclusive interview that took place in the White House with Donald Trump touching on crime, on Sadiq Khan, and also on energy and North Sea oil in Britain.
Well, elsewhere, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is set to announce what she calls the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times. But will the Danish immigration model go far enough? President Trump had a warning about immigration in Europe.
Immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
And retired British Army generals have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces. We'll be joined by two SAS veterans in the studio.
And a major incident has been declared as the aftermath of Storm Claudia continues, with more rain and flooding expected across much of England and Wales. Doogie Beattie is in County Down.
Yes, the first of the autumnal storms has hit the Midlands, the Bristol Channel, the southeast of Wales, and is now crossing the Irish Sea. Over 70 flood warnings are in place and 180 flood alerts.
Biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Charlie Peters. And your weekend starts here. Good old Doogie Beattie, always taking a battering from the Northern Irish Sea there, isn't he?
Grim. I went on holiday in Newcastle, Northern Ireland last year. It didn't look like that. That looked awful.
Did you go in the summer?
No, actually, I went in October. Still
very brave. Well, not the only person taking a battering this morning, because Donald Trump took aim at pretty much everyone last night with our very own Bev Turner talking about Sadiq Khan, talking about Europe's immigration troubles, also, Olivia, talking about issues that we're having with the BBC.
I'll be so interested to see what the relationship's like between Trump and Starmer when Trump next comes to the UK, because last time Trump was actually very friendly about the UK. Starmer was fawning over him. They were absolutely best buddies. That seems to rather have fallen apart now, doesn't it? With, as you say, Trump laying into every aspect of British life and all of our politicians. How's Starmer going to respond?
And he was still pretty fawning about us. He loves Britain, of course. He spoke about the state visit, most beautiful thing he'd see.
He loves the royal family,
speaking
that's for sure.
Speaking about the long table, I think that was the room in Windsor Castle where the state banquet was hosted, saying he'd like one of them for himself, I think.
Well, I quite like one of those for myself as well. Well, don't forget, we want to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think about Donald Trump, about immigration, about everything else we're talking about this morning. Please send your views and comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay.
But before we do anything else, let's cross over to Bethany Elsey for all your latest news headlines.
Thank you both. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 4 minutes past 11. The US president has told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC for defamation. Donald Trump says he'll sue the broadcaster for between $1 and $5 billion after it apologised but refused to compensate him over airing misleading clips in a Panorama programme. It spliced together parts of his speech on the day of the Capitol Hill riot, making it seem like he made a direct call for violence. They call it an error of judgment, but in an exclusive interview with The Late Show, Donald Trump branded the BBC corrupt.
Fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again. And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people.
In a major shake-up, people granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. The Home Secretary is set to announce reforms modelled on the Danish system next week, aiming to make the UK less attractive for illegal immigrants and make it easier to deport them. Currently, those granted refugee status have it for 5 years and can then apply for indefinite leave to remain. Under the new rules, they will be returned as soon as their home country is considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. Rachel Reeves is expected to extend the freeze on income tax thresholds until the end of the decade. That move could push more than 10 million people into higher rate tax bands and bring all state pensioners into paying income tax by 2027. Reeves is also preparing a new levy on middle-class homeowners, introducing a £600 million surcharge on high-value properties. London and the South East will be hardest hit. And South Wales Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe and widespread flooding. Emergency services have been working through the night to evacuate people at risk and are urging others to avoid the area if possible. 4 severe flood warnings remain in place, meaning there's a significant risk to life. Meanwhile, thousands across Ireland are without power. Authorities there say the risk of flooding will remain even after weather alerts have lifted this afternoon. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you, Bethany, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Charlie Peters and me, Olivia Utley. In a world exclusive, GB News' Bev Turner sat down with US President Donald Trump in the White House.
They spoke about the ongoing row with the BBC following the emergence of not one, but 2 doctored clips, with the president saying he will sue the corporation.
I have to admit their guilt. It's on tape, you know. I mean, there's nothing to admit. No, I think very shortly we have a statutory period. We've notified them by writing, and I think you have to wait a week. And so that time's coming up, and after that time comes up, we'll sue them. My lawyers say for $1 billion or more, and we'll see how it all works out. But I can't imagine they could do very well in that lawsuit. What they've done is incredible. But I will say, I think I have an obligation to bring a major lawsuit against the BBC, because what they did is impossible to believe. Now, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. You know, I'd like it to be stronger. You know, the word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did.
Well, the president also had a warning about levels of immigration throughout Europe.
Immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum.
Well, joining us now is broadcaster and journalist Matthew Stadlen. Great to see you this morning, Matthew.
Great to see you guys.
Quite a punchy interview from Donald Trump last night, confirming he will go ahead and sue the BBC, saying elsewhere for up to $5 billion. What wasn't pointed out was perhaps that is suing the British people as well.
So it was certainly punchy from Trump. I wouldn't describe it as a punchy interview, guys. I mean, Bev and I know each other a bit. We were presenters on the same channel. We get on well with each other behind the scenes. But that, to my mind, was not really journalism. I'm not sure I've ever seen an interview in my life where the interviewee, in this case the most powerful person in the world, and the interviewer seem to agree on almost everything. However, we did at least, through Bev's technique, if you can call it that, get to see what Trump really thinks. And I mean, I'll just give you one example. He described oil and gas. I watched it this morning while juggling children on my arms. And he described oil and gas as beautiful and clean.
Yeah.
Now, There may be arguments to continue with using gas for a while. It's not beautiful and clean. On the BBC question, I actually think it's pretty disgraceful that an American president, as I say, the most powerful person on the planet, the leader of the most powerful democracy in the world, and someone you might hope would be a champion of free speech and not want to be a party to a chilling effect on free speech, is actually going to sue Britain, and we are supposedly #1 allies, a special relationship, sue our public service broadcaster. The BBC has apologised. It was a bad edit. I noticed in your highlights of that Trump interview with Beverly that you used white flashes, and that's what the Panorama programme should have done to make it clear that the words did not follow immediately after the other words.
Yeah, but it wasn't just a bad edit. It fundamentally changed the meaning of what President Donald Trump was saying. And of course, you know, the BBC is the free press. It's important. But you can see why the president is pretty angry about this. That is a huge documentary on Panorama, a huge show for the BBC. You can see why he's furious and doesn't want them to get away with it.
That Panorama, interestingly, and I didn't realise this was the case until this story blew up, but that Panorama was produced by an independent television company.
It's not clear who did the editing, though.
And it should have been looked at, and I'm sure would have been looked at internally by the BBC. So there's no excuse. I would just rather the BBC made those sorts of programmes in-house. But I accept that the edit was bad. My view is I can't get into the mind of the journalists involved, the producers involved. I suspect it wasn't malicious. In other words, they weren't deliberately trying to mislead.
So they didn't realise, they didn't understand that what they'd done completely changed the meaning of what Trump was saying.
Either they were trying to get the highlights out and didn't do so in the way that they should have done, as I say, with the white flash, or they thought that that was the overall meaning and that's what they were trying to convey. That's very different from deliberately trying to mislead. Now, I've said all along in this story it was a mistake. That's not how I would have edited it. But what will be at stake if this does go to court? I think in American defamation law, the malice has to be there. In other words, that you were deliberately trying to mislead in this case. The BBC's been clear that that's not what was going on. The BBC has handled this poorly. There's no doubt about it. I think it should have been addressed more effectively originally when this came up earlier in the year internally at the BBC, and maybe the BBC should have made it public that there had been this mistake. They've got that wrong. They got it wrong again a couple of weeks ago when this blew up. They should have come out immediately and said sorry. They're now in a weakened position. They've lost their Director General. They've lost the most powerful person as well in news. This is a problem. But I would just remind viewers of this. Donald Trump, on January the 6th, and this is not an excuse for the edit, okay, two things can be true at once. Donald Trump, on January the 6th, encouraged his supporters at a febrile time when he, as a sitting American president, was refusing to accept the democratic result of that election, encouraged his supporters to march down on the Capitol.
It doesn't excuse in any way what the BBC did, completely changing the meaning of that speech.
Let me say,
misrepresenting viewers who may not have watched it in any other form, British viewers who their only source might be the BBC.
You're not going to get a different answer out of me, Olivia. I've already said the edit was bad. This is according to Politico. The 57-43 majority, and it wasn't the supermajority, the two-thirds majority required in the Senate to convict Trump in that impeachment trial. But the 57-43 vote, which included 7 Republicans voting against Trump, marked the first time since 1868 that a majority of the Senate voted to convict a president on an impeachment charge. What was the charge? The charge was effectively that he was inciting this insurrection.
We already know this, but the point is, if a world leader has committed such a failure and such an error and has been held to account for it, you don't need to mislead the audience and misrepresent what they've said elsewhere. Does it not point, do you think, to a bit of what's described elsewhere as sort of a derangement syndrome people have over Donald Trump, which is they see the errors, they want to criticise him, but they can't help themselves but cross that line, breach journalistic ethics and deliberately, it seems in this case, misrepresent his language with that egregious cut?
You're asking the same question in a different way, but highly articulately, of course. What you're trying to get me to say is that this was deliberately misleading. The only person who can definitively answer that question are the journalists involved. I should make clear again, the BBC maintains this was not maliciously done. Now, I want to say, because I've come out repeatedly this week to defend the BBC, because I believe incredibly strongly in a public service broadcaster that is committed to impartiality, that is committed to accuracy, that would not interview a president of the United States or a prime minister of this country as Bev Turner interviewed Donald Trump. They would not be there agreeing with almost, or if not everything that he said. They'd be putting tough questions to him. That's what we need. We need power to be held to account. That's why I say, where the BBC makes mistakes, it must correct them, and of course it should apologise. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Otherwise, in a world of disinformation and misinformation, a world where many people get their information, their news and their politics from X, we are in serious trouble, and that will undermine our democracy.
So just in one word, is there institutional bias at the BBC?
I really very strongly hope not. I had my own political views, my own personal views, when I was a producer in news and a presenter in news for many years at the BBC. I very, very much hope that not once in 8.5 years did I allow those views to creep out. Not just that, I would never tell anyone in the newsroom what my personal politics were.
What we're seeing coming out from the Telegraph investigations recently is that even though you have been an editorial angel back in the day, more recently there have been more than a couple of issues with people very much putting forward their personal views revealed by the
They shouldn't, and by the way, on social media, on X and so forth, BBC journalists particularly should not ever express their politics.
And is it interesting when they leave the BBC, they very quickly do, and often those politics are left-leaning. But Matthew Staddon...
And sometimes right-leaning.
Yes, and sometimes
right-leaning.
Very rare.
Have you heard of someone called Robbie Gibb, who actually sits on the board at the BBC?
OK, Matthew Staddon, thanks for your time this morning. He's got one. He's got one to refer to. Right, well, let's go now and speak to the senior lecturer at Queen Mary University of London. That's Dr Richard Johnson. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Dr Richard. Just reflecting on what we were discussing there with Matthew on the BBC bias issue and how it could impact the international relations between Britain and the United States. Is this going to impact what has been quite a rosy relationship between Starmer and Trump so far?
I don't think it necessarily will or has to. I mean, on the specifics of the case, I mean, first of all, Donald Trump has to decide whether he wants to fight this in US or UK courts. In the United States, courts do have more of a reputation for giving out these enormous claims, or that there are very significant settlements, and Trump has been accustomed to doing that with other media providers in the United States. He got $15 million in a settlement with ABC and $16 million in a settlement with CBS just last year. But the issue, I think, is that he's going to struggle to get a case in the US because this was not targeted to a US audience. And actually, in those cases, basically those settlements were made, I think, to have a peaceful life with Donald Trump from those US media providers. I don't think the BBC is in the same position as those US-based media providers. And so I think they can stand their ground a bit more.
I mean, it's not just Britain that Donald Trump was digging the knife into. He was suggesting that all of Europe is in the doldrums, that they needed MAGA for Europe. How do you think that's going to go down with other European leaders? It's very unusual for a US president to make this many commentaries on how Europe is run. Could there be strained relations between Trump and other European leaders as a result of this GB News interview?
Well, I was struck by listening to the interview how much Donald Trump was willing to weigh in on the kind of domestic political affairs of the UK and other countries in Europe. I mean, that is partly his style. I mean, partly he has an interest in the UK, both as being literally a son of a Briton, but also someone who has had long-standing business ties to the UK. So he's kept abreast of UK politics and economic policy for well before he became president. So I think he feels a little bit more knowledgeable and invested in those areas. But it is unusual behavior for a president of the United States to offer such internal commentary. However, it's not unusual for Donald Trump, and we're at a stage now, 10 years since Donald Trump came down the elevator in Trump Tower, where I think people understand that this is the way that he behaves, and I think governments just tend to take it on the chin, to be quite honest with you.
OK, Senior Lecturer at Queen Mary University of London, Dr Richard Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Matthew, I just want to go back to you on this, because we just heard Dr Johnson there talking about the relations with European leaders. We're hearing Shabana Mahmood talking about possibly emulating the Danish model for migration. Do you think the Labour Party is going to be able to stomach that? And could Trump's interventions here push the Labour Party a bit more to the right on immigration?
I think we know what Trump thinks about immigration, illegal immigration in particular, and asylum. I think his relationship with Keir Starmer is fascinating because on that plane, when he was speaking to a pool of reporters, maybe not last night, but recently, I think I saw that he had said, or I saw him quoted as having been said, that Starmer had tried to ask for a phone call. And who did he speak to before he spoke to the British Prime Minister? Seems he spoke to Beverly Turner of GB News. And yet he gets on very well, and I may not have got the chronology right, but he seems to get on very well with Starmer when he's in the room with him. And yet he can be effectively highly critical of him at other times. Trump has the ability to speak with forked tongues. On the question of illegal immigration, I think there's no doubt that the Labour Party, the Labour government, understand that they need to grip it. Otherwise, they are going to really struggle to win the next election because the boats are such a visible example of people coming to this country, some of whom should be able to come to the country because they're genuine refugees, but some aren't. And it's a really difficult thing for governments to grip. Personally, I think Nigel Farage would really struggle to do so. But of course, pressure from America, our number one ally, of course that's going to register on some level with the government and the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Huge pressure on the government, but will the backbenchers see it the same way? That is the big question.
I think his chronology is right. I think...
Spoke to Bev Turner?
Yes, he was. I'm going to have a conversation with Sir Keir Starmer, but first, let's go to Bev Turner. Right, well, in a letter sent to the President on Thursday, the BBC said, while the BBC sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, we strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim.
We'll be bringing you clips of that Late Show Live exclusive throughout the morning, but stay tuned to GB News at midday, where Dawn Neeson will bring you that full 40-minute interview. You get to see everything that Donald Trump said to Bev Turner.
Right, well, still to come on Saturday Morning Live, some former generals in the British Army, they've accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces. We'll be joined by 2 SAS veterans in the studio.
But next, the party's over for your party. Independent MP Adnan Hussain has resigned, with reports suggesting it was due to veiled prejudice against Muslim men and the continuing donations route.
This is Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, if you'd like to have your Christmas on us, good news, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Here are all the details you'll need.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by broadcaster Duncan Barks and political commentator Dominic Moffat. This doctor's strike that's about to start, I think I'll start with you. Have they massively overplayed their hand here?
Yeah, I think they have. I mean, it's very clear that public sympathy is on the wane. If you look at some of the polling in the newspapers over the last couple of days, only a third of people actually thought this should go ahead. And when I say people, I mean doctors. Right? So there's not a massive amount of support within the medical fraternity for this. I think we've seen the BMA, which is like the doctors' trade union, if you like, just become so overtly political and actually make some really bad strategic decisions. And as Health Secretary Wes Streeting has been saying and banging the drum over the last couple of days, whenever he's popped up anywhere in the media, you know, they had a 28.9% pay rise over 3 years. I think most GB News viewers and listeners, myself included, would be thinking, that's actually quite nice. Thank you very much. But they're coming back for more. And the impact on this are people who have been waiting on waiting lists for many, many years. The waiting lists go down a little bit, they go up a little bit, and go down a little bit. You know, they managed to drop ever so slightly last week, which is good news. But the impact on this is on human beings, people who are in pain, waiting for medical procedures. And last time, there was a long period of strike action. 1.5 million appointments were cancelled. So if you're someone who's waiting for your knee op, right, and you can't get around, this is having a real impact, and I don't think the BMA gets it.
It really matters. And Dominic, there's a lot of chit-chat at the moment, isn't there, about Wes Streeting as a potential Prime Minister, perhaps sooner than people had anticipated. As the Health Secretary, dealing with the doctor strike has been one of his primary roles. On that, there's been a total failure. A lot of people in Labour, I think, thought that government would be pretty straightforward. They're the good guys in the room, they'll turn up and all these problems will go away. In fact, he's paid them more and they've come back, as Duncan said, for more.
Well, I think I completely disagree with you. I think this has been a fantastic success for Wes Streeting. Wes Streeting is able to stand up and say, I am standing up to the BMA, I'm standing up to the doctors' union.
I'm not... But it hasn't actually changed anything. He can say it's a success because he's stood up. And they've sat him right back down.
Credibility and his standing. And look, if we're talking about Wes Streeting as a potential future leader of the Labour Party, his standing as a political figure across the country is he's standing up to that trade union, something that Labour leaders have historically often been criticised for not doing.
But doesn't the trade union feel that they are able to do this because Wes Streeting gave in to them last time round? He gave them this huge pay rise, and now the trade union thinks, right, you're putty in our hands, let's go again.
Wes Streeting gave them a pay rise that they deserved after being denied decent pay rise for 15 years by the last Conservative government. You're talking about the fact that wages have fundamentally not gone up since 2007, since the financial crisis.
There's been all right for public sector workers.
He was making up for that failure.
But he
of
made
the
an
last
error,
government.
didn't he? The error he made was Liberals was the pay rise that he gave them upon entering office came with no strings attached, right? And that is very poor negotiation tactics. If you give someone a pay rise, you go, you need to commit to X, Y, and Z. And everything that I've read about it and seen about it suggests, like, here, lads, ladies, have a load of cash. And no great surprise, basic psychology means if you do that, people go, oh, we'll try it again next time. And that's exactly what's happening.
And he's able to show them that they're not going to be able to get away with that. And that's
fool
why...
me once. You can't fool me twice.
And that's why
that
what you've seen is that so many doctors have not gone on strike alongside some of their BMA colleagues. And actually what you also see is that the average ambulance response time has come down by 10 minutes, which means people are getting seen sooner by the NHS now than they were a year ago. It's worked.
Well, I'm not quite sure that it's worked. It does look as though NHS waiting times are going up and down all the time. We would expect them to nosedive after the long effects of COVID have worn off. But quickly, can we just get your take on this extraordinary Your Party story? I'm struggling to keep up with the developments in Your Party.
It's hilarious. It's so
opera,
dysfunctional. It's like the best political soap opera in town. So I call this the Fruit and Nut Party, deliberately to be offensive. This is the Jeremy Corbyn, Zara Sultana outfit, this so-called, some say, hard left party, and it just seems they can't get their act together. It is fundamentally embarrassing, but perversely fascinating to watch at the same time. And this will be good news today, because what you've got, good news, particularly if you're Labour or the Green Party, and possibly the Lib Dems if you're worried about losing some votes to this Your Party. That's not its proper name. They still haven't decided what to call themselves. But there's a guy called Adnan Hussain, who's the independent MP for Blackburn, and he's quit the party. And he's quit the party because he talks about serious and damage infighting amongst the group. I don't think anyone's surprised.
Your Party would deny that. We've contacted them for comment as well. Of course, that criticism about them...
Did you get a comment?
No, not yet. But the criticism about going after Muslim men, obviously very charged. They would reject that, we anticipate. Adnan Hussain's an interesting character, actually, Dominic. You know, as an independent MP for Blackburn, with a very heavily Muslim area, he actually came out and supported an independent inquiry into the grooming gang scandal well ahead of the Labour Party. This new organisation, this interesting split of Corbynites and this growing independent wing as well, they're not actually as simple as people are writing them off as the Fruit and Nut Party, as I think we've just heard from Duncan. There's quite an interesting mix there.
Well, a lot of these people were people who were not at home in the Labour Party. They were kicked out because, as we said at the start, they're not serious people. They were not able to run a political party when they were running the Labour Party, and they're no longer welcome. What you've seen here is some very, very challenging criticisms of the party already, levelled by someone who's been elected by 70,000 electorate in Blackburn. It's very important that those criticisms are taken seriously.
It does feel a bit as though all of these MPs are going to be setting up their own separate parties, and let's see how they all do.
And have you ever seen so many statements being issued? I don't know if you've seen this, but they issue statements about each other constantly.
It's tit for tat, isn't it? It's
yes,
hilarious.
it is.
I love it. It feels like being back at girls' secondary school.
Not your party next. They always split these hard left groups, don't they? All right, well, Duncan and Dominic, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Lots more to come on the show today, but first, let's get the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The US president tells GB News he feels the BBC is corrupt and that he'll sue the broadcaster for at least $1 billion after it aired misleading clips in a Panorama programme. People granted asylum in the UK will only be allowed to stay temporarily. Under new government plans, they'll be returned to their home country as soon as it's considered safe. The Chancellor is set to announce so-called stealth taxes in the upcoming budget after she abandoned plans to raise income tax rates. In South Wales, Fire and Rescue have declared a major incident in Monmouth after Storm Claudia caused severe flooding and thousands in Ireland are without power. You're up to date. More for you in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Well, we've been enjoying a lovely mild November down here in London, but it's not the same across the rest of the UK. Storm Claudia has been battering the country. We'll have Doogie Beattie live in a very windswept County Down.
And after we speak to Doogie, we'll also be in the studio with a pair of SAS veterans speaking out after retired generals have accused the government of putting veterans at risk with their Northern Ireland prosecutions. You won't want to miss that interview. Stay tuned. Saturday Morning Live.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After all the heavy rain yesterday, storm cloud air will weaken, but leaving behind plenty of cloud and also some fog across the south. But in Scotland, plenty of sunny spells to come. Now here's that area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay, and here's the frontal system it's leaving behind. This will bring plenty of rain and drizzle through the course of the day, and to the south of this, plenty of low clouds. Some foggy conditions may remain across this south, but where we do see the fog ease away, plenty of cloudy skies will remain. Further north though, across Scotland, a much brighter day. Plenty of sunny spells here and quite blustery across much of the country, but even these winds will ease away by the afternoon. Plenty of milder air still remains across the south, highs of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius here. Now into the evening, still plenty of cloud will remain, and it will still produce some rain and drizzle, particularly across the Welsh Hills, across parts of the Pennines. Also parts of Northern Ireland could continue to see some spells of rain and drizzle. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland, but that does mean as soon as the sun goes down, it will feel chilly once again, and it's likely we'll see quite a widespread frost across Scotland through the course of the night. Skies will eventually start to clear across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England, so it's starting to turn much chillier here, but to the south of this, still plenty of cloud remains, still producing some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mainly around hilly areas. But with the clouds, that does mean temperatures will hold up across the south, but many areas across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England may just about drop below freezing, with quite a widespread frost across Scotland. Now for Sunday, the second half of the weekend, it will be brightening up for many of us. The remnants of cloud will eventually push south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but elsewhere brightening up nicely. Plenty of sunny spells, but some quite blustery winds, particularly around North Sea coasts. There might be some showers around these areas too. For all temperatures, around about average for the time of year, highs reaching 11 degrees.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Well, retired army generals have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces. 9 four-star generals have signed an open letter in The Times to warn that soldiers' trust in the legal system has deteriorated to an extent that it presents a direct threat to national security.
They blame so-called lawfare being used to fight political or ideological battles. Well, joining us now in the studio is Parachute Regiment veteran Simon Barry and SAS veteran Bob Parr. And Bob, I want to start with you about whether you think this mood is reflected across the current serving personnel, those stances taken by those retired generals.
Well, I can tell you empirically that yes, it is reflected by the current serving community. It's reflected to the point actually where people feel so outraged that they're seriously considering leaving the organisation or indeed actually leaving the organisation. And that's represented actually empirically by a single statistic that one of the squadrons at least is down to about 1/3 of its establishment strength.
And that's at the SAS?
The SAS, yes, 1/3. This is one of the 4 squadrons that's in the SAS. It's about 1/3 of its established strength. They always run a little bit under strength, Charlie, but that is remarkable.
But that's a huge risk to the country, frankly. I mean, because these squadrons are on constant rotation in terms of their role, and the SAS has been deployed pretty much every single day in its history at one point or another. And you're quite convinced that the reason people are leaving is they fear these vexatious, as some describe them, prosecutions years down the line.
Yeah, that's one aspect. Another aspect, of course, is the sheer operational momentum, the tempo that the regiment operates at. But if you figure that they're losing more people than they would normally lose due to this, the vexatious inquiries, that has to impact their operational capability. If the SAS's operational capability is being negatively impacted, it is a national security issue.
Simon, can we just rewind a little bit for our viewers? What exactly are these generals so angry about? What's the story here? Why is everyone so furious?
I think because they see it as a sort of break with what people call the military covenant. The armed forces are based on loyalty, and the loyalty goes both ways. And once you start to corrode that loyalty, that cement that binds the whole thing together, then the organisation will start to fall apart. And I think a lot of the generals, and I know quite a few of them, have realised that this is far more serious than people were saying just a year ago.
And do you know people who, people who are still working in the army, who are struggling to recruit into their regiments because of this? Do you know direct stories about this?
No direct stories. It's all hearsay and so on. It's not the recruiting, which is always a problem, but it's keeping the good guys in. Because when the good guys feel they're going to be betrayed, it's the good guys who go, because the good guys can do something else somewhere else and get a lot of money. And therefore, in both the officer and sort of other rank levels, you end up with the mediocre staying and the good guys having moved on. And that's the sort of situation you need to avoid.
So, Bob, it's quite rare to hear from an SAS veteran speaking so openly about the political situation, because, of course, the government doesn't comment on the Special Forces group, its activities, and we're not obviously permitted to hear from serving personnel about issues pertaining to their service. Do you get the sense that there's frustration in these units about the situation?
Charlie, I think very clearly there's frustration. Yeah. You wouldn't get people breaking cover, if you want to use that expression, and going public with this if there wasn't very significant frustration. The guys, as you rightly say, themselves, they're not in a position to comment, they're not in a position to speak up for themselves. And what they actually see in these persecutive forms of inquiries, ECHR, etc., being applied retrospectively to operations that conducted decades ago, is they would reasonably expect that the politicians, their senior chain of command, would stand up for them. It's taken a bunch of retired generals to stand up for these guys and to give them a voice. People like myself, people like Simon, and others that you've been hosting.
And of course, this all comes against a backdrop of really poor funding for the army, not just under this Labour government, but under the Conservatives before. We've seen retired generals break their cover previously to say the army just does not have enough money. It now feels as though the army is sort of being squeezed in all sorts of different ways, and it could come to a head.
There's finance, which is always a problem. You've never got enough money. But you can still do things when you are a little short of money. If you've got the right will and the right team spirit and all those things, what they call the moral component of fighting power, which has always been a strength of the British Army, of my organisation, of Bob's organisation. So that's what is also coming under sort of sharp scrutiny. Throwing a few million at some fancy little veterans project isn't going to change this. It's got to be a complete change of ethos and approach, and going back to why people made the British Army what it was in the first place.
And the moral component of fighting power, Bob, that comes from standards, right? Not just moral courage and that can-do attitude and overcoming adversity, but also the sense that perhaps the British military needs to be held to a higher standard than those of terrorists. That's the argument made by some who do support this incoming government legislation and changes being made recently that perhaps the IRA and members of the British Armed Forces shouldn't be held on the same level playing field. What's your reaction to that perspective?
Well, I absolutely get they shouldn't be held on the same level playing field, but what these investigations represent is the suggestion that there is actually a moral equivalence between the two, organisations, and there isn't. You have victims. The current government is very victim-concentric. You have victims of illegal activities, murderous activities enacted by paramilitary organisations. And then you have victims, but they're not victims. You have casualties that end up in that situation because of their own criminal actions. So there is absolutely, in the victim context, there's absolutely no, there is no parallel here, and nor should there be.
Simon, do you take the same perspective on this?
Absolutely. The easy way to look at this is when a soldier goes out on patrol, he takes his rifle, he goes out and off he goes, and he comes back and he puts it away, and that's it. When a terrorist picks up a weapon, he is going out to kill. And let's remember, the IRA actually killed more Catholics than anybody else. And it's a very, very violent terrorist organisation operating within a democracy.
And of course, the IRA campaign in England is also a current issue in terms of understanding the legislation around that, whether there'll be inquiries or proper investigations into actions, for example, in Birmingham, the bomb there. Do you get the sense, Bob, or are you concerned that with such a focus on the actions of British Army veterans and Armed Forces veterans in Northern Ireland, the government is potentially overlooking properly investigating IRA actions on the homeland here?
Well, here you hit a very significant paradox, because it's quite easy for the state or for the courts to investigate actions taken by members of the military, because all of the patrol reports still exist, the weapons still exist, they're still in the armouries, all
and
that.
you can speak to the personnel.
Crime evidence is still there. There is absolutely none of that exists for the paramilitaries and for the IRA.
Thank you very much to Bob and Simon. Well, a government spokesman said, after the false promises of the last government, we are putting in place 6 real workable protections for veterans that the failed Legacy Act never did. We will not allow the process, like so many before, to become the punishment for our veterans.
They go on to say that these robust safeguards will ensure the rights of those who serve their nation so honourably are protected, while providing victims with a human rights compliant, fair and transparent system to seek answers.
Well, still to come, we'll be joined by Doogie Beattie, who is on the ground in County Down in the aftermath of Storm Claudia. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Claudia is not just affecting the UK, it will continue to bring heavy rain to parts of Portugal and western Spain. But meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, it's looking dry and sunny throughout the weekend, highs around 17 to 19 degrees. Also fairly dry across parts of Italy as well, but it's further west into Portugal where the wet weather will continue into this weekend. And that wet weather is set to spread further east into the Mediterranean, bringing rain here later next week. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Some schools are banning birthday cakes from the classroom.
Yeah, banning parents from sports. And now the great headline in the Telegraph, Labour puts the knife into nursery birthday cake. Apparently, new guidelines for the Department of Education are saying that you should not send your child into school with a cake when it's their birthday, because it's bad for them, it's going to make them fat, all the rest of this stuff. It's the nanny state once again on the march, isn't it?
Is this a new thing? Because I don't remember ever taking a birthday cake.
Oh, yeah, we
my
did.
Birthday.
We did too.
Took a birthday cake.
And I think some schools I've seen that have a fake birthday cake, which is not nearly as nice, with a fake cake with a candle on, so you sing happy birthday and blow out the candle. But, you know, I love the way Jacob Rees-Mogg...
yes.
European GB News presenter has waded into this row saying, well, my children's nanny sends little cakes into school for all the children.
Absolutely.
He said
the nanny sends them in.
Only socialists
know what is acceptable and what isn't.
He says only socialists want to stop such innocent pleasures. And I think there's a real point about that. One school, actually, Broxburn Primary in Harrow, is saying, don't send your child in with a cake. Donate a book to the school library instead. I mean, that is just not a good substitute, is it?
Cakes?
No, my kids are 1 and 3, so they're not quite at that age yet. But
It'll happen.
It does it. I mean, it should, because
But it doesn't have to be a big splodgy cake. It can just be something.
But even if it's a bit of a treat, there's no way the calories of school birthday cake are the calories making people fat.
No.
So we should focus on the big issues rather than ruining this fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a killjoy. I think kids should have a bit of fun. I just didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah,
it's all changed since my day.
I think maybe it's the teachers who don't like the sugar rush the kids get afterwards, and they can't keep control in the classroom.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and a major incident has been declared in parts of the country as the aftermath of Storm Claudia continues, with more rain and flooding expected across much of England and Wales today.
While weather warnings for rain have now expired, disruption and flooding persists across the country, with an amber warning for cold weather to take hold next week. Well, joining us now from Newcastle in County Down is GB News Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Beattie. You look very, very windswept indeed. What's it like over there?
Yeah, weekend on. It's me that's with storms. Yeah, that's set up a bit. But yes, it is bad in Northern Ireland, but not as bad as it has ever been. It's the first autumnal storm of the year, and that of course means that lots of leaves and so forth are getting washed into the gratings, and that is causing problems in towns and villages, mostly in the Midlands. It has to be said, southeast of Wales, Monmouth, Bristol Channel, and even down as far as Exeter. That has crossed overnight. That rain band has crossed overnight into Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, mainly south of Dublin, down into Wicklow and right across, making its way into Cork. The ground is already soddened, of course, and that is causing major problems for rivers that are now bursting their banks and bringing down the debris of the summer, the trees and branches that have been washed out, of course, down into those rivers and causing some flooding in those areas. But we're in Newcastle here in County Down, and you just see it behind us there, the Irish Sea. We're not far away from Blackpool, the Isle of Man and Liverpool, and you can see the white horses really on the waves there. A lot of seagulls coming in, which means that the wind out there is bad enough to make that happen. But really, the flooding will be the main point here over the next couple of days, especially in around Wales. And then, of course, we have the problems with what happens when the cold weather comes. That will really affect farmers. It will wash out lots of loose soil onto the roads. If you're in and around the rural areas, please be very, very careful on those roads, because, of course, it'll be quite slippy. And if your area is flooded, please do not walk in amongst it, because it will have blown the sewers. I've watched this many, many times before, and people walk in, go in surfboards, etc., and of course there's sewerage in it. But I will leave you with a lovely shot of where the mountains of Mourne sweep down to the sea.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Doogie Beattie. And for those of you watching at home, don't do anything Doogie wouldn't do. That's our weather advice for you there. Well, thanks so much, and to all of you for watching us on Saturday Morning Live today. I'm off on holiday for 2 weeks now.
Off to Thailand, all right.
I know. Lucky me. That's my first 2 week holiday since I got here, to be honest. So, looking forward to that. But you won't see me for the next 2 weeks, but you will see Olivia next week.
Anyway, don't go anywhere, as Dawn Newsom is up next with The Weekend. Dawn, what's coming up on the show?
Missing you already, Charlie. Have a good one. We have got an amazing show for you. For the first time today, the full exclusive sit-down chat with Donald Trump and our very own Bev Turner. It's brilliant. We've been showing you clips all day, but we've got the full, fascinating interview, and you really don't want to miss it, including I'm going to reveal exclusively live on air what our Bev did straight after that interview. Plus, we've also got some shocking footage of Sadiq Khan that he really won't want you to see, so you want to hang around for that. And the scary truth about that cuppa you're probably drinking right now. All of that after weather. See you then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After all the heavy rain yesterday, storm Claudia will weaken, but leaving behind plenty of cloud and also some fog across the south. But in Scotland, plenty of sunny spells to come. Now here's that area of low pressure just off the Bay of Biscay, and here's the frontal system it's leaving behind. This will bring plenty of rain and drizzle through the course of the day, and to the south of this, plenty of low clouds. Some foggy conditions may remain across this south, but where we do see the fog ease away, plenty of cloudy skies will remain. Further north, though, across Scotland, a much brighter day. Plenty of sunny spells here and quite blustery across much of the country, but even these winds will ease away by the afternoon. Plenty of milder air still remains across the south, highs of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius here. Now into the evening, still plenty of cloud will remain, and it will still produce some rain and drizzle, particularly across the Welsh Hills, across parts of the Pennines. Also parts of Northern Ireland can continue to see some spells of rain and drizzle. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland, but that does mean as soon as the sun goes down, it will feel chilly once again, and it's likely we'll see quite a widespread frost across Scotland through the course of the night. Skies will eventually start to clear across Northern Ireland, northern areas of England, so it's starting to turn much chillier here, but to the south of this, still plenty of cloud remains, still producing some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle, mainly around hilly areas. But with the clouds, that does mean temperatures will hold up across the south, but many areas across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England may just about drop below freezing, with quite a widespread frost across Scotland. Now for Sunday, the second half of the weekend, it will be brightening up for many of us. The remnants of cloud will eventually push south, so remaining quite cloudy across many southern counties, but elsewhere brightening up nicely. Plenty of sunny spells, but some quite blustery winds, particularly around North Sea coasts. There might be some showers around these areas too. For all temperatures, around about average for the time of year, highs reaching 11 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers